Joining us now to help us better understand what's happening inside the Loya Jirga is Mike Lyons, Senior Fellow at the Truman National Security Project. Welcome back to the show. What do you think these elders will decide, and should 10,000 U.S. troops really stay on after 2014?
Those are two great questions. I think first and foremost, the elders will likely give some level of approval for President Karzai to do this. But he throws a monkey in the wrench here by saying that perhaps this approval won't take place until after the elections are in April. So I do think you're going to get some approval by the elders, but it might not be this overwhelming force. We saw today a very calm crowd overall.
Well, the U.S.-Afghan relationship, obviously a very complicated one. If many Afghans, including their own president, don't want U.S. troops there, as we heard Hamid Karzai, and if U.S. leadership won't come to a consensus on this security agreement, then why have one in the first place? It seems that both sides are tired of dealing with one another.
Complicated, but very strategic, Elaine. I think that it's in the best interest of both these parties to get something done here. I think what we saw today was a little bit of Afghan governance and a lesson in civics with regard to how their parliament works and how their system works. It's a democracy trying to stand itself up. They're looking for concessions. It transcends the security. There's business things involved with this as well. I think it's going to be very important that both sides get something done. It's in the United States' interest to have a strategic ally in the region where there's feet on the ground working side by side with Afghan security forces in order to keep the environment stable and secure so the Afghan government continue to run.
Well, and there is this perception from the international community that once 2014 happens, there is going to be some sort of clean break. We're just a short time away from that pullout. How do you see this transition playing out? Will there be complications as there have been hiccups leading up to this already?
So far there haven't been, but we've just drawn down U.S. forces, brought them back to major built-up areas, and then back to the United States. The transition will have to take place where the formulations of the exact units. What will that number be? You asked before, will the United States leave 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 troops there? What will their roles be? What will their mission be? Will it be purely training? We've heard Secretary Kerry say that they'll have no combat role, but you could be assured that if they're soldiers, they'll be able to protect and defend themselves. The issue just gets back to what's remaining, where are they going to be, what exactly will their mission be, and what will be the support mechanisms behind there. Because besides the 8,000 to 10,000 troops, there'll be civilians, there'll be other support structures in place to help the Afghan government.
Well, we heard in our piece from our correspondent mention, can Afghanistan stand on its own? Do you think it can? And how long, if it can't, will it take before it can be self-sufficient?
The key to the security environment is to provide space and time for the government to get on its feet. If we bring more aid, let's say, besides democracy that's been introduced to Afghanistan, more capitalism, more goods and services, factories, there's a gas pipeline trying to be built within the country. All of these things have not reached that tipping point yet. So the key is have the security environment such that it allows that to happen. It allows the economy to get better, people's lives to get better, and then perhaps that generation will move forward and we'll see real progress in Afghanistan.
Well, and you mentioned the pipelines, the resources that Afghanistan has to offer. And, this country is obviously trying to make its own relationships with its neighbors. Can you talk a little bit about that and how this election in April will progress the country?
All of those are very key, especially the relationship with Pakistan, with the neighbor India as well. You've got Iran and Iraq also on this border, which is why it's a strategic place for Americans to be, and why it's important, if we're there from a security perspective, that those countries will know that we're not going to leave. We're going to continue to support the Afghan government. I think, again, the key is here. It's in the best interest of both sides, both the Afghan government and the United States, to try to work out, make something happen. The worst possible scenario is what we've seen happen in Iraq, civil war come back. What we're seeing is the beginning of the beginning. There's going to be a lot more that's going to take place over the next few months, but I do think you'll see U.S. forces and a very large security agreement take place over the next 10 or 15 years there.
All right, Mike Lyons from the Truman National Security Project, thank you so much for joining us from New York City.